Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Down in the Valley podcast. My name is Edson Ochoa, and we are back for another episode to talk about our RGV FC Toros. By the way, I know what you're probably thinking. The timing is very sus after RGV wins by a massive blowout against a Copa Texas rival, which is El Paso Locomotive. Fortunately, it is what it is. But you know what? We're back now that I'm back in the regular schedule at work. Hopefully, I could be a little bit more consistent with going live for the podcast as well. And guys, if everybody who's watching right now, go ahead and put in the chat where you are watching from. Give us your thoughts on this past Saturday's match against El Paso Locomotive, where the Toros beat the Locos 5-2. What were your thoughts? Were you guys surprised by the scoreline? Were you expecting something else? Give me all your thoughts, all your hot takes. We will be mentioning them right here on the chat as the program goes by. We've got Abraham Moreno. Got Abraham Moreno right here. He says, "¿Qué onda, Edson?" And of course, we've also got Preach the Word, who is watching us from McAllen, Texas. And then Mira, they played with more heart this game. We will be talking all about that right now, and of course, we've got Travis Ricketts that's watching from Facebook. Says he is watching from Dayton, Tennessee. Travis, thank you so much for all of your support of the Down the Valley podcast, as well as Preach the Word. Abraham Moreno, thank you all for your support. But guys, we are not alone today. Like I mentioned on Twitter, unfortunately, Jacob is battling a mild sickness, but it was enough to affect his voice. So he will not be able to come on today. But fortunately, we've got from South Texas Border Sports, we've got Ray Silva coming on to help us talk about this past game against El Paso Locomotive. And we'll go ahead and bring him on. Actually, hold on. Before I do that, there we go. Now you'll be able to see his square. Unfortunately, there are some issues, so you won't be able to see his camera. But Ray, how are you doing? Ray, are you there? I cannot hear him. But anyway, so while Ray fixes his issues, we'll continue to see what the chat shows. Abraham says, "Nice cut, bro. Thank you, man. Thank you. Finally, I found something that I actually feel comfortable with. I had been going with fades for a while, but it weren't really convincing me. But I've really found something that was pretty cool." Preach the Word says, when they went down 1-0, they got on the line real quick and were just like, run it. They did not get down on themselves. So that's a really good point, Preach. We talked about it in previous episodes where the Toros, every time they got scored against, the morale just went down on the floor and they started making all these mistakes and, you know, just having a terrible game. When they went up on the scoreboard first, I mean, they were pretty much doing pretty well. However, when they get scored on, you start seeing all these mistakes. You start seeing desperation. That's when you started seeing a lot of negative results where they couldn't come back from that. As I talked in the last episode where we went live, after talking to one of the players, he mentioned that after the game against New Mexico at Isotopes Field, they kind of got together and said, you know what, this is, it's time to, get rid of whatever pressure we are having internally as players individually and as a team as well. So they held a little get together and kind of worked on getting rid of that internal pressure that was bothering them, that was kind of blocking their minds. And for the most part, it seemed that right after that, it was like it worked pretty well for them. So now we're starting to see a much more positive minded RGV, a strong, mentally strong RGV, because even in the last match where RGV lost against Tulsa, despite being a man down for a lot of the game, RGV at times made Tulsa FC Tulsa nervous. To especially right after Galindres scored the goal. Unfortunately, you run into a situation where then Robert Coronado also gets a red card, and I know I talked about it with Costless and Shadow Wolf in their Twitter space, that it was just a product of desperation of trying to go for the equalizer, because it really did seem that despite being down a man, they were close, or they had the momentum in their favor to actually go for an equalizer. Unfortunately, Robert Coronado gets a red card, and so they had to end the game with 9 men. And it just there's one thing I mentioned, and unfortunately, I didn't have an episode to talk about it, but I just thought it was funny that after the final whistle, FC Tulsa's players celebrated like they won the World Cup, against RGV, who ended the game with 9 men. So I guess that was pretty much an indication of how tough RGV was for them playing against them. So I think we've got back Ray. Ray, how you doing, man?
Hey, Edson, thanks for welcoming me so nicely. And Jacob, get well soon, buddy. I mean, hope everything health wise is in good speed for you, buddy. Want you to get back soon. I don't want to make creases on your chair for too long, but thanks, Edson, for having me along.
Yeah, of course. Anytime now. I know you're usually there every game. Uh, you know, week in and week out. Every time there's a home game. So, and you've always been one that has been very analytical of this team. You do have a lot of analysis, not only of the RGVFC totals, but also of the USL in general. Obviously, college sports, anything like that. So honestly, and I mentioned it before, every time you're on, it's a very great asset to have on the show, a different viewpoint, r- rather than the more fan viewpoint of either Jacob or I. So but yeah, 5-2. I guess, like I asked chat right now, I want to ask this to you. Was this a very unexpected scoreline, considering how these teams were coming into this match?
Well, to be really honest with you, I was not surprised, and I tell you why I'm not surprised for a few reasons. Uh, Gabriel Benitez, I'm a fan of his game. I like the way he plays it. Sometimes the heart. I mean, because South American players tend to tackle a little bit more recklessly. Sometimes I feel like he's playing with a little bit more danger of picking up a silly card, kind of like Eric Pimentel.
I was about to do that.
And I guess because he hasn't played in this league for this long, um, maybe that may have played a factor as to why he may have been signaled for that PK early on. Had it been a little bit more a, a more ball oriented tackle, maybe the spot kick would not have been given that quick.
Hmm.
But again, it's the early woes, no problem. Lucho Solignac, I mean, I'm sure there's a paternity suit somewhere with all those goals from San Antonio and including El Paso. I mean, there's some paternity suit there.
Okay, so now you bring up the
Okay,
sub.
no, not really, but you get the picture.
Yeah, you bring up the subject of Gabriel Benitez, right? And we'll go ahead and touch upon that a little bit more. Okay, so like you said, it's barely the second minute. Like I think even Mark May mentioned, it wasn't even like 90 seconds into the match, and he he brings out the penalty. Um, like I think when I saw the replay, to me, I was like, really, did he really have to do that? Um, because it was a blatant push, and I don't. And the worst part is, if you look ahead to another player in that first half as well, Well, actually, in the second goal for that was scored by Josue Aron Gomez, um, he blatantly pushes Gomez in the back, and it just somehow happened that him falling over helped him, put the ball in the direction into the back of the net. But that was also another situation where maybe had that ball not been a goal, you would have probably been looking at another dangerous foul right outside the box when I felt like maybe he didn't really need to, especially with the fact that if I'm not mistaken, Benitez was the last man. So he could have been called for denial of a goal scoring opportunity. So it's like I think I mentioned it in the chat, like to whether it was with you guys or with the Stampede, I was like, man, Benitez is too aggressive today. And when you coming off a situation where in the previous game you lose another center back due to a red with Frank Nodarse, and then obviously Robert Coronado as well, and it's like, why would you even try to even put the team in that situation?
Yeah, and I guess I kind of felt like the first 35 minutes of this game in general, it just seemed like that because they weren't haymaker goals. It was just like two playoff uh, playoff hungry teams giving each other a nice little sparring match. You know, who's gonna come out more fatigued out of that sparring match in the first half? I mean that's what it kind of looked like in the first half. It really did. I mean, you look at the second goal, the first goal that the Toros scored. It was off a bad pass from El Paso's back line. Now,
Mhm.
they've had a number of issues with their back line during the season. And Galindres, I mean, look, I don't mind if he doesn't score goals, but if he can find that open teammate, hey, I will take that.
Mhm.
I will happily take that right now at this point because he's supposed to be the goal scorer. That's fine. I don't mind him given that label. But if he can do more than score uh like hog up two defenders or pounce on loose ball opportunities, hey, I'll take that for now. And I feel like Galindres is gonna suit this team like hand in glove right now, especially of what the Toros need. I mean, and it's kind of good that the Toros don't kind of have that true number nine. I mean, I hope it doesn't come back and bite the team in the future. But right now, I mean, it's working right now.
Yeah, I definitely think like with Galindres, I think one of the biggest issues maybe some people might have that followed him on or would have seen his tweets on Twitter, where he's talking about, oh, the goals are over here in Colombia and everything like that. Well, some people might be like, okay, well, he was talking where are the goals. But I think for me, I think I agree with you in that aspect, Ray, where, as long as he's contributing to goals, whether it's assists or scoring them, and I think that's what matters the most. I think as that right now the biggest idea is the importance is get this team getting goals, getting results, because we have a lot of ground to make up from results at the beginning of the season if we want to make the playoffs. At this point, it doesn't matter to me who scores the goals. It could be Tyler Derrick for all I care, scoring the goals. I don't know if you guys remember when you were kids and you would play, FIFA at the beginner difficulty. You just pass it back to the goalkeeper, and your goalkeeper would be the goal scorer with like 60 some goals a season. Anyone else do that? Just me? Okay, maybe just me. But you get the point. I think it's like I mentioned before. Right now, I think at this point, it does, like, to me, it doesn't really matter much whether we play beautiful or we play ugly. As long as we get 3 points, especially at home, I think that really matters to me. But before we continue, I do want to take a look at that play between for that goal by Josue Aron Gomez. So if you notice right here, they try to pass the ball onto the wing, and for some reason, Gabriel Benitez goes up all the way towards the midfield to, I don't know if he was trying to intercept the ball or or just to put pressure, and so that left a space wide open for Gomez to receive the ball, and he left him up to Pimentel, right? So Aron Gomez receives the ball outside the box, totally gets past Eric Pimentel easily. You could tell that Eric Pimentel wasn't planted correctly out on the field, so that gave an advantage to Aron Gomez to get past Pimentel. Now, I do appreciate the hustle from Gabriel Benitez of, okay, I messed up getting myself out of position. I sure as hell am going to hustle my way back to try to get back onto the play. But then you see right here, okay, so Aron is inside the box, but it's like you already have, Akwe, prepared if needed to go in and intercept his trajectory. And you've also got, I believe that is Juan David Cabezas, and uh, that might be Ricky. I'm not 100% sure. But you've got other defenders inside the box. To me, I feel like there was no need for Gabriel Benitez to make such a hard challenge inside the penalty box. And really, there was nothing for Benitez to complain about. That was a penalty, clear as day. And obviously, Lucho Solignac, the father of RGV FC, scores another goal against us to open the scoreboard. Right? What's up, Mike? So it looks like Ray might be having some issues, but yeah. So that's for me. That's my analysis of this penalty that led to the first goal. Now I do want to mention, guys, because I know y'all just mentioned it right now, about the mental toughness that this team has now. Because I think in any other game, the after being scored so early, you would have probably seen a little bit of desperation from this team. But fortunately, they kept their composure. They trust Wilmer's system at this moment. They are bought into Wilmer's ideas and Wilmer's system, that they trust that if they continue to play like they should, it would more than likely give them an opportunity to get an equalizer. And honestly, it didn't take long. It only took them like 4 minutes for RGV to equalize the game. And from what? Of course, we're talking about Wilmer Cabrera's tried and true system of high pressure. So if you look right here, this is another opportunity that RGV had, but was saved by Benny Diaz. So you have El Paso trying to come up with a controlled ball. RGV intercepts thanks to the high pressure. Cristiano Francois gets the shot. It was a good shot on target, but Benny Diaz is able to get the save. However, immediately after, you have this situation. RGV once again with that high pressure goes up against I believe this was Eder Borelli and Chapa, and so Galindres is able to intercept that ball, finds Taylor Davila in a more favorable position inside the box, passes the ball quickly to him, and of course scores the equalizing goal for RGVFC. So we talk a lot of times about RGVFC's high pressure, especially at home. It seems to be working. Now, I know Ray mentioned right now about Juan Galindres being a a striker that will give a what you call it, a pass to a teammate if then they're in a better position. I will see it many times within this game. So it's fortunate to have to head up. Mike says what a heads up. Okay, by Galindres. So yeah, so uh, so that was the first goal by RGVFC. Like I said, a product of the high pressure from Wilmer Cabrera. And there were other opportunities throughout this, especially in the first half, where the high pressure from RGVFC was causing havoc on El Paso Locomotive's defense. You saw many times where the defense for El Paso Locomotive was giving terrible passes right in front of goal that led to opportunities by RGVFC. I want to say it's this one, uh, but there was one by Cristiano Francois. So no, so this is another one. This is a rebound that is favorable for Cristiano Francois, but gets saved by Benny Diaz. The but there was another one I think later on in the game. So you see where all of that is coming from. However, uh, unfortunately for RGVFC, 15 minutes in, they get scored on again. This time by Josue Aron Gomez, and in the run of play. So what I'm seeing right here is that Abraham Moreno says, I like that Galindres knows when he doesn't have the shot and passes it. That is very true. That is a good testament of the vision that Galindres has. I feel like any other striker, despite not having a good angle to the shot, he'll try to take it anyway. But Galindres has that awareness to know where his teammates are that are in a better position and pass the ball over to him, as I mentioned. So, in this goal by El Paso Locomotive, yeah. So we're gonna be looking at this one. Costas, he says that was a wonder goal by El Paso. To be honest, so this is the product of I know I was listening to the Seriously Local podcast. It's a fan podcast for El Paso Locomotive, and they were talking about how El Paso Locomotive is more of a direct passing team, direct ball, long balls towards the strikers. But they were actually very surprised, and in the second goal, how well they moved the ball. And we'll take a look at it right here. So the ball is going through the midfield, one touch. Josue Aron Gomez, going straight towards goal. And there you see that push by Gabriel Benitez. Once again, he's in a situation, like I mentioned, had it not been a goal, he probably would have been red carded, because that was clearly a denial of a goal scoring opportunity. But there's one thing that I want y'all to look at about this play that kind of looks like Ray is back. We'll go ahead and add him right now. But yeah, from this play, one thing that I'm looking at right now, and hopefully Ray can kind of help tell me if my analysis is correct or not. But if you see right here, when El Paso Locomotive is going for that first touch passing, you see a high pressure, first of all, from Wahab Akwe. He's up too high because you already have Taylor Davila right over here, where this Paso player is, right? The one that's inside the circle. So you've got two players there. One of them is your center back. So that leaves a hole open in your line of defense, right? So there's a first touch right there. There's another first touch that takes out Eric Pimentel, with that first touch when they pass it off over to Josue Aron Gomez. Now, one thing that concerns me right here is that despite the situation where now it's Gabriel Benitez by himself, I do see that Juan David Cabezas, and it could be because he's not a young guy anymore, but I don't see him like hustling back to run and try to help out Gabriel Benitez. But then again, he is a little bit farther, compared to Pimentel, despite the fact that Pimentel was taken out of the play, just a couple of fractions of a second before. So yeah, like I mentioned, Josue Aron Gomez 1-on-1 against Tyler Derrick. And Gabriel Benitez with a push that helps Josue Arongo put the ball past Tyler Derrick. And RGV was back uh, in an unfortunate, unfavorable scoreline situation early in the game. Like I said, this was barely the 16th minute of the match.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those plays where Wahab, if he had stayed back instead of playing that high line that where maybe the result of the play doesn't end up in a goal,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just one of those things where you know Puma gets taken out and Benitez is kind of like that last man standing type play. And just remember, he's already given up a PK in the game. I mean, you don't want to you don't want to see the guy giving up a second PK in the game. You just really don't.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, the situation is the fact that, usually Benitez would be the starter in that position. And I still think that Tomas Ritondale, I prefer Ritondale to Benitez. And I understand Benitez may have more experience and all of that. But I think so far, I think right now he's been a little bit too aggressive out there in the back. So, and honestly, I was just surprised. And I know we haven't talked about, we skipped over talking about the starting 11 for this team, but I was just actually surprised surprised but not surprised at the same time because you're missing a center back, But I was just what surprised me was how well the team played with a line of four, despite that in previous games they mostly played with a line of five.
Well, I mean, when I initially saw the lineup, I went with the old classic 4-2-3-1,
Mm-hmm.
whereas you had Ricketts and Benitez on the outside, and Wahab and Puma as center backs, and your two center mids would be Davila and Juan David Cabezas, and then
Mm-hmm.
your attacking three you would have Ricky Reese, Wilmer Jr., and Pinzon, and then up front Galigol.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that was my original thought as I tweeted out and saw the lineup.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, you had already lost Coronado and Nodarse to red cards, so
yes.
that's where the two changes and adjustments came from the lineup.
Hmm. Now, another thing that kind of struck me as I was watching the replay of the game was that we would always see Ricky Reese out there on the wing, out there as a forward on the right hand side of the field. In this game against El Paso Locomotive, he was a lot more central because up on top he had Francois on the left, Galigol as your number 9, and Wilmer Jr. out on the right side of the field. Behind him, you had Davila and Ricky Reese as interiors. Then behind them, you would have Juan David Cabezas as a center defensive mid. So I don't know. What were your thoughts on seeing Ricky Reese more as an interior player, and what did you think of his performance in that new position?
I thought his work rate was pretty good, despite seeing it for like the first time this season. It wasn't all that bad at all. I mean, of course, the guy is coming off a little bit of a layoff as well, so it wasn't. It was very acceptable. I'll leave it at that. It was very acceptable. I feel like uh the the forwards are very. You could interchange a lot of those pieces, and it's not like a throughout a game scenario. You could line them up in different positions, depending on your opponent. Like Las Vegas coming up. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're gonna see a slight variation of that come this Saturday.
Hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I said, it's just surprised me because I had never seen Ricky in that position before. And honestly, I think he did well. He attracted fouls outside the box, including the one that was the equalizer for RGV FC, the second goal. But before I go on to talk about the second goal, I have a question for you, and I'll go ahead and display it right here, right now. Is this following play deserving of the Calucha de Oro from El Paso Locomotive? Like, seriously, how can you as a professional player like put yourself in that situation? I just thought it was hilarious, but at the same time, I know, like I said, I was listening to Seriously Local podcast, and they mentioned something like, though these mistakes, these performances were pretty much, I guess, a reflection of what the team is suffering right now. And they were mentioning that even when they scored the goals, the celebrations weren't very ecstatic. Didn't seem like there's very little chemistry between the players. I mean, they were saying that maybe there was something going on within the locker room, and obviously that is not RGVFC's fault. But I just felt it like it was just like, you scratch your head and say like, how can you miss such an easy pass, and you're trying to pass it back to your keeper? It was closer to like passing it over to yourself than actually making it over to Benny Diaz. So it's just a wonder how terrible and how nervous uh El Paso Locomotive's defense was in this game. And it's just unfortunate that Galindres was unable to take advantage of that gift by the El Paso Locomotive defender. So, but I guess it is what it is, Ray. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, it depends what song in the background for El Calucha de Oro are we using? Are we using a tamborazo de Valentín Elizalde? Are we using Los Picadientes de Caborca? I mean, give me musical options behind that. Give me some musical
I,
options.
I would go with Picadientes de Caborca with la El
Okay,
Río. Yeah. Vámonos
there
pa'l
there you
Río.
go.
That one. That one. It's just because it's just so uh whimsical, I guess you can say, and just how terrible that pass was. Like, it's funny because lately so far there's this meme video. I don't know if you've seen it, Ray, where la de viven en un country, like, and all of this, like, he's saying like how these modern players, like, they have the best cleats, they they sleep in the best houses, they sleep in five-star hotels.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, obviously not a USL championship level. Let's be honest about that. But like overall, like once you make it to like Liga MX and above, right? It's like you
Yeah.
live in all of that. You drive BMWs, anything, and it's like, and you can't, and it's like, y no puedes pasar la pelota al compañero que está enfrente de ti. Like, you can't pass it to the teammate that's right in front of you. Like, I can justify it if I do it with the stomach, but you guys are professionals and yada yada yada. It's like that video came to mind, to be honest, when I saw that. And I think I'm gonna make an edit out of that play with that video because it's just terrible, like how bad it was. But what wasn't terrible was this upcoming
Or
trick play.
another meme that I would apply there is the "Mama, I'm gonna see Salcedo bleep it up again."
Chale, ya la cagué, ¿verdad? Yeah, it's just it was just terrible. Like, I don't know what's going on with that player's head, but that was
I
just
mean,
hilarious.
I. But to be really fair, just steering back into topic real quick.
Hmm.
Remember how there was a lot of parts during last season, and even the last season and the season before. Does Mark Lowry miss El Paso, or does El Paso miss Mark Lowry? I think this is now the part where El Paso misses Mark Lowry now, because remember when the time that Indy 11 was kind of struggling to find their footing with Mark Lowry.
Hmm.
Now the tables have turned. I think El Paso misses coach Mark Lowry now.
And it's interesting because just a couple of weeks ago, El Paso was actually, I think, they're second in the Western Conference. Then all of a sudden, apparently, according to our friends at Seriously Loco, I think they're at 8 games straight without a win or something like that. Like they just completely imploded upon themselves, man. So I don't really don't know what's going on with El Paso right now, to be honest. But hey, like I said, it's not RGV's fault, and they have to take advantage of these scenarios if they want to get to these valuable 3 points, especially at home. But what I did want to say was what was amazing was this trick play by RGV FC between Jonathan Ricketts, Wilmer Cabrera Jr., and Taylor Davila. So this is interesting, right? So you've got yeah, you've got Wilmer Jr., who really convincingly looks like he's the one that's going to take the free kick. You've got
Yeah,
right next to him Taylor Davila, who is also his good shooter from outside the box. And then right in front of the ball, like clearly in the way of any potential shot, is Jonathan Ricketts. I was almost expecting a play. I don't know if you've seen that video of was it? I think it was a women's game. I don't know if it was Atletico de San Luis or Chivas. I know because it was red and white, if I recall correctly. But it was one of those where it's like they did something like that, and then as the kicker was going to hit the ball, the other player doesn't move. They start getting into this whole argument, and then one of the players just passes it over to the third player, and she takes the shot, and it goes into the back of the net. I was expecting that play. I was not expecting that. Wilmer looked like he was going to take the shot, and then it was Taylor Dalivela that gets the shot instead, right before Jonathan Ricketts, or right after Jonathan Ricketts moves out of the way. And what I was not expecting either was for Benny Diaz to completely eat it up and that going into the back of the net.
yeah. I'm all like, my first initial thought when I saw that, I'm like, wait a second, did we just score a brilliant free kick goal? Because if so, that may have been our first of the season.
I think, yeah, that
That
that,
may
that is,
have been the first.
and honestly,
I mean, not
what?
counting corner kicks,
Yeah, but I don't
not
think I've
counting
ever,
corner kicks,
and I don't,
but
I don't think I've ever seen something like this in any previous games in the season.
no,
Like, like
no.
this started in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, wait a second. I'm all like, is RGV now getting those home foul calls that Wilmer talked about in some of those pressers?
Oh yeah.
Answer yes. Answer is yes.
I love,
And,
I
and
love what Costas is saying. He says the Toros are changing how football is played. That's Wilmer ball for you. That is Wilmer ball for you.
yeah, I mean, when I saw that goal, I'm all like, oh, like, is that the way we score now all of a sudden? Like, open play is not an option anymore? Did we just tear that page out of the scoring booklet and refer now to set pieces?
Yeah, it almost looked like out of like a play out of like Ted Lasso or Club de Cuervos or something, like where it's scripted to be like that. Like really don't expect it to work as well as it did by in real life. So
Yeah.
very entertaining way to score a goal. I'm not sure if it's gonna be one of those Sports Center top 10 plays, but I think it should be in any future YouTube compilations of successful free kick trick plays, because scoring a free kick is hard enough as it is. Scoring a free kick when you've got a teammate in the way, and you have to time that shot, precisely, so that you don't look like a fool and end up hitting your teammate as he's trying to get away from the trajectory. Plus, that just goes to show like how well Taylor Davila has been with those shots from outside the box. Like he has nailed it down to a T. I dare to say, like, outside of maybe Wilmer Cabrera Jr., he has been the most the best performing offensive player for RGV the season so far.
And I'm not going to disagree with that last statement right there you made. I am just not. I mean, I have no defense for that. None. Zero.
So Harry Austin says, "What's up, RGV? Congrats on taking out El Paso." Harry, if you can give us a quick update on how Copa Tejas is looking at. Well, by the way, I have to say, just a quick parentheses, Ray, because I'm pretty sure you were there when he said it. But I just thought it was interesting, before the first game against El Paso Locomotive. I know Shadow asked Wilmer about Copa Tejas and what kind of importance they give the squatter himself are giving Copa Tejas, and Wilmer just shoots it down, and he's like, at this point, we don't really care about that. All we care about is the USL Championship in general. Like, all we care about is making the playoffs, hopefully earning a championship. Like, for us, Copa Tejas is kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things. So I just thought it was interesting. I felt that maybe Wilmer said the quiet part out loud of what maybe a lot of RGV fans are thinking regarding Copa Tejas, because I feel like out of the three teams in Texas in the USL Championship, I feel like we may be the ones that give it the least importance.
For me, that's why I labeled this match the Texas Border Derby instead of Copa Tejas. Because remember, you're talking about two different regions in Texas that have one thing in common. It's the border, baby. And
Mm-hmm.
once border regions meet up, I call it the Border Derby with the word Texas attached in the front of that statement.
I want to give a shout
So
out.
that's why I took a whole.
Mhm.
That's why I took it out of context and just used it as the Texas Border Derby.
I don't know what y'all's thoughts are on that. So go ahead and put in the chat. Do you all agree with Wilmer? I know this would be something that would have been had we had a show. I think that would have something that would have been in Kema no Kema Ka. So it would be interesting to see what you guys think. Do you agree with Wilmer? I'm pretty sure Harry will completely disagree with Wilmer, since I know San Antonio is very 100% into Copa Tejas. But like I said, I think Wilmer said the quiet part out loud, regarding what the fan base thinks of Copa Tejas, unfortunately. I want to give a shout out real quick to my good friend Josh, also known as the Yogi Bear Gaming on Twitch. Guys, if you guys love video game content, video game streaming, be sure to check out my friend's Twitch channel. I think he's live almost every day, if I'm not mistaken. So he'll play horror games, RPG games, I guess simulator games. He plays all kinds of games. So be sure to follow him on Twitch, and give him an opportunity to entertain y'all for a couple of hours in the day. He is actually, if you guys want some more context on who he is, he was one of the co-hosts and of course one of my best friends from Houston and members of the PO podcast. So give him a go ahead and support him in this new chapter of his online life. Do it. If you don't do it for, if you don't want to do it for him, do it for me, guys. Like, really, you guys will not be disappointed. Uh, so, Mike, regarding Copa Tejas, says, "Si Kemaka, we can't let that distract us from the real goal ahead." Abraham asks, anyone else making the drive to the San Antonio game? I'm not. I'm not. Unfortunately, I have to work. So it's a weekday game. I have to work not only Wednesday, but I also have to work the next day. So I'll be watching Puro ESPN Plus for that game. So okay, so we talked so far about the first four goals on the match, and this is just what the 20th minute of the game. So
Yeah,
goals very early in the match. So you would have thought that this game was going to be very rigid, very nothing was gonna nobody was gonna cede an inch, or if they were gonna cede an inch, both of them were gonna be like 2-2, 3-3, 4-4 kind of thing. It's just a back and forth game. But it, like, from that moment on, I feel like it was mostly RGV with the opportunities on goal. You end up going, what is it, all the way to the 30, what was it, 34th minute, where off of a corner, Eric Calvillo, deflects the ball into the back of his own net in another chale, ya la cagué, verdad moment. Off of the corner kick by Warmer Jr., the ball gets, I want to say it gets deflected by number three of El Paso Locomotive, which is Pakovic, and then it just gets deflected by Eric Calvillo. Now, Ray, one of the things that I want you to talk about this particular play, and this is because in the Seriously Local podcast that went out, I believe today, if I'm not mistaken, if you guys want to listen to their point of view about this game, uh, by the way, they jokingly called Warmer Jr. the Nepo kid, and then they're like, "Yeah, we're just joking." Like, I think Warmer Jr. has kind of shown why he deserves to be, a good player in the USL Championship. But where I was going was, one of the things that they mentioned is, they said that with El Paso Locomotive, it feels like every game they're getting scored on it against off of a free kick. And number two, what they thought was more surprising is that nobody outside of Pavlov. Let me see his name again. Pavkovic jumped for that ball. Like, everybody just ball watched, even when the ball was right inside that 6 yard box. Did that catch your eye about El Paso? Because I know you were there at the game.
you know, the last home game prior against El Paso, I mean, there was a towering uh, corner kick goal that Wahab had scored on. Okay, I don't think there was gonna be lightning gonna be caught in the bottom. Okay, so when that free kick went in, I saw a slight touch. I saw the second touch, and then the ball kind of disappeared, and balls behind the net. And then seeing the replay that I got to see in the Sickles committee, they have a rule that says do not kick a sad field goal. The thing that I will add to this is that do not score a sad own goal. That's what kind of happened there, because every El Paso shirt was like, okay, they were just standing there like, and I don't think they were ball watching. That I think they were just trying to keep an eye on RGV players, like not wanting to get a touch, and somehow, some way, I mean, it was just like, wow, like we're up 3-2 all of a sudden. Like, boy, this game is like on its head officially,
Mhm.
type of deal. And that was just like my instant thought. And then viewing the replay a second time, I'm like, okay, these guys were actually ball watching and instead of watching both things, both attacking players and the ball itself. So that's kind of like the sad part of everything to that third goal that RGV had scored.
Yeah, it's like we go back
I
to this
mean,
whole thing of the fact, like, this is like very unexpected and not something you would expect from from professional defenders. And I kind of feel for what the El Paso fans are probably feeling right now in regards to that, because you expect them to at least put up a fight, and honestly, they did not.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like El Paso got a little. I didn't want to say they got a little too comfortable with that second goal,
Hmm.
but once I felt like that second goal went in, you kind of saw a little bit of change of on the body language a little bit. Like they weren't expecting for that Taylor Davila goal to score.
And so
Okay,
soon as well.
and I kind of felt like, yeah. So you kind of, I mean, to me, I kind of saw a little bit of a drop in the body language a little bit once that equalizing goal came in, and that RGV just continued to insist and press on the fact that, okay, we want to go into a, at least a one goal advantage, or knowing that we're gonna give you a couple of scares, either finding one shot on frame, maybe two, something to like keep us in this game and completely shell shock El Paso a little bit more.
Hmm. And shell shock they did in the second half. Over in the 59th minute, you have another opportunity where there's a cross by, looks like that's Wilmer Jr. going into the box, gives it over to Galindres. And Galindres, he's got like two, three players on him uh, with his back towards the goal, right? So at that point, El Paso was able to control what Galindres may do. So when he receives the ball, the defender won't allow him to turn around, right? Which is what you should do as a center back, right? But what happens is, okay, you've already got one person controlling it. You don't need three people, three defenders going towards him, because he's not going to give you any. If he can't turn, he can't create any danger. And so the worst part is that because of that, you got another player as he's moving more towards his left, Galindres' left. The other player that was marking Wilmer Jr., he's like, oh, I'm going to go and try to take the ball for him too, and I'm going to leave Wilmer behind. And so when he does that, leaves him wide open. Galindres sees this, and we talked about Galindres' vision, passes the ball over to Wilmer Jr. Jr. hits the ball right towards the base of the first post, almost impossible for Benny Diaz to get a touch on it. And now RGV is winning 4-2 early in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like that was such a redemption play for Galindres, because let's face it. I mean, I'll be the first to say, like, I was a bit of a skeptic of his play, but
Same.
he's found a way to silence me. He's found a way to silence me, and I'm glad that the guy's been able to find a little bit of his footing now with this RGV lineup, and recognizing that, hey, I'm here to contribute, and I'm here to do things here for RGV FC, and for Wilmer, it just reaffirms the fine form he's been in the last 2 months. 7 goals in the season. I mean, hey, I mean, the guy has really picked up uh his play per se. I mean, you look at the month of June, you look at the month of July. I mean, dude's in fine form, as you like to say.
Yeah, and I know that I don't know if it was you that asked in post game press conferences about Juan Galindres' performance, and I know
Yeah, that was
I
me.
remember, yeah. So I know Wilmer, mentioned about the fact that if he continues to provide these opportunities, like it's just gonna further cement him as the starter for this team, and I know that we've also got Frank Lopez, and we've also got, obviously, I mean, who else? You got Cristiano Francois, who usually is now being played more out there on the wings. You've got Christian Pinzon as well. So it's interesting how earlier this season we were having an issue with like depth in our offense, and now it's like it's one of those things where like, okay, that like you got Galindez, gelling well with Warmer and for Cristiano, and now how to like. And we know Christian Pinzon is a good player. I guess he just needs, more minutes to get himself fully confident in his off of his the injury that he had. And Frank Lopez, can be crucial in some moments when you need him the most. It's like, well, now how am I gonna like who am I gonna put in this starting 11 now? So I think you could say that's a good question. That's a good dilemma for Wilmer to have as he's trying to construct a starting 11. And as long as Wilmer's gelling with Galindres or whoever, that's a really good sign for RGV. But that you've got players like Pinzon and you've got players like Frank Lopez. If for some reason, like we saw against Tulsa, where your front three aren't working, where you've got these players that you can put in and maybe can bring an extra spark or a different spark into the game to try to find something. And you saw that it did, like they weren't able to equalize, but right after you bring in, Cristiano Francois, he gets the assist for Juan Galindres to score the goal that at least put them back in the game despite being one man down.
Yeah, I mean, totally agree in that assessment that now Wilmer's going to have a little bit of a headache selection to choose from, and it's just one of those things. Like, hey, this is a good problem to have now because uh now you're starting to find the guys that have had form, that know the system, that know what they want. Now, as far as Mike's question is concerned, just viewing at the chat here, is
Mm-hmm.
Carlos Small the goal leader for most goals in the RGV? Absolutely, Mike. Absolutely. And hello and good evening to you. Nice to see you guys over in the Stampede. The last couple of home games ago, where I was making my way to the press area. These guys just absolutely found me, and I'm like, oh boy, am I in for one of those beer baths type of things where my equipment might just go womp womp.
F in the chat. So let me see if
Yeah,
I
but
can.
no.
Yeah, let me see if I can find something. I got record player, top goal scorers. Okay, so according to Transfer Market, yes, Carlos Small is still the leading goal scorer with 17, followed by Eric Bird with 14, Elvis Samo with 13, Ruben
Mr.
Luna
Needed the face to
to Tyler Derrick. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't want to talk about that. Uh, Ruben Luna,
nobody
back
does.
back in the OGs, with 12 goals. Here's the surprising part, guys. Number 5, Wilmer Cabrera Jr. with 12 goals. One more goal, he'll pass Ruben Luna as the fourth best goal scorer for Rio Grande Valley FC Toros. Not bad for a player that a couple of years ago I called Pecho Frio. And I apologize at the moment, and I'm glad that I am being shut up by Wilmer by his performances on the pitch. I don't think a lot of you were probably expecting that, but yeah, Wilmer Jr. beats out players like Michael Salazar, who stayed with 10, Frank Lopez, and Kyle Murphy, and Chuy Enriquez, all with 10 goals with RGVFC.
Um, and to be really fair, we talk about Wilmer Jr. and an interesting stat came up also in the post game press conference in Spanish. Hector Severin had said that the last time that uh, the Toros had put up 5 goals at home was against the Las Vegas Lights when
Oh,
Eric
yes.
Winalda decided to go nuclear, and Wilmer Jr. also had a goal.
Yes.
And yes, I am going to be ready Saturday night to call out Eric Winalda once again. If it happens, it happens, and I'm just going to sit back and grab some popcorn.
So Carlos is small. Mike. No, I don't think he. No, it was, I believe, what, 2 seasons? Because I think he played 42 matches in total. Um. So yeah, I think it was 2 seasons because I think he lasted 2 seasons, and then the Dynamo did not want to uh they didn't want to ask for a loan
Renewal.
extension. Yes, well, it was mostly because he was out here on a loan, and so
Yeah.
the Dynamo didn't want to extend the loan, and so, and I know, and I can know for a fact, guys, that Carlos Small really wanted to stay with RGV. Like, I can tell you, like, he would send me messages. I'm like, hey, can you help me out? Can you, like, try to convince, so and so and so and so to come back for the Toros? The guy liked the RGV and was, willing to come back, but unfortunately, Dynamo had other plans. So, but yeah, he's still the leading goal scorer. But I think at this rate, Ray, I think we might be looking soon at maybe at least another second place for uh, that will move Eric Bird, the Birdman, over to third place overall, a top goal scorer for this team. Um, so Abraham says, I know, because I know you mentioned it, you asked it to me on Instagram. Abraham says, Edson, was this the most goals scored in the game for the Toros? No, I believe, like Ray said, we've scored five against another team before. Uh, but I'm not sure if we've had uh, 6 goals or more that we scored in a game. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know, Ray, if you're aware of that.
No, as far as that I know, I think five is the record, to
No,
be
no,
really
no, no, no,
honest
no,
with
no,
you.
no. August 14th, 2016 versus
August 14.
2016 at home against Seattle Sounders FC 2. 6-0.
Oh, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was when Emilio Garcia had that luscious free kick goal,
I think
and
so.
HEB Park was still being built. I remember that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I
so.
remember that game. I remember that game so well. Yeah,
Uh,
I remember that game so well
mhm.
because the Sounders too was like it was everyone in their young guns.
Yeah. Just to refresh y'all's memory, in that game, you had Emilio Garcia scoring a brace, and then Ruben Luna, Eric Bird, Kyle Murphy, and then Zenon Katic scoring the last goal in stoppage time. So yeah, the top number of goals we scored in a game is 6, followed by two games where we won 5-0, which was against Las Vegas Lights last year and against the Tulsa Roughnecks, F in the chat, uh, back in 2016. And that was, what's funny? That it was the week after they scored 6-0 against Seattle Sounders too. So they scored 6-0 against Seattle Sounders, and then they went over to Tulsa and beat them 5-0. And then right after that, another 2016 score, Whitecaps FC 2. They beat them 4-0. And then in fifth, you've got this last week's game of 5-2 against El Paso Locomotive. So, yeah, pretty interesting to say the least.
Wow, I mean, you just turned back the clock a few years, to be really fair with you.
Yes.
I mean, hell, I mean, even a few gray hairs may have been popped out by then.
So I'm trying to look here. Hold on. Anyway. But yeah, that I thought that's pretty interesting. I hope that answers all of y'all's questions regarding that. So yeah, so at the end, obviously, RGV wins the game 5-2. I think totally surprised a lot of people, and I think it's just a reminder, because I know that there was mention even uh, I know the last game against FC Tulsa, and I apologize for bringing it up when Shadow isn't here, but he did tweet out to me during the game against FC Tulsa, and he kind of made a comment, which after when I talked to them about it on the Twitter space with him and Costless, they mentioned that maybe sugarcoating was not the correct term, or that really reflected their thoughts, but he made a mention of like, oh, is this result against FC Tulsa a reminder that maybe these past results against this unbeaten streak that they had was just sugarcoating the reality of RGV FC. That maybe, okay, the teams that they've won or tied against, didn't play well, and that's why we were doing so good. And I just want to give you a quick reminder, guys, that if these other teams didn't play well against RGVFC, was because RGV didn't let them. RGV, it wasn't because these games or these teams are terrible. Like even Sacramento Republic struggled against RGV. They what didn't we rescue a tie against them, and they were like the best team in the Western Conference, if not the whole USL. And they didn't have a lot of opportunities to score, for them to score against us, right? So, like I said before, like when people say like, "Oh, it's because it wasn't they won or they had the unbeaten streak because of the others and not because of what RGB does," I think it really takes out it really um, takes away from the effort that uh, that this defense had been putting in those weeks. And like I said, uh, Shadow mentioned like, that wasn't my intention," but I do have to mention it live on the air because maybe that wasn't Shadow's intention, but maybe other people, and I'm looking at you, Facebook page, that the Facebook comment section of RGVFC's page, where they can probably find that tweet and they'll be like, "You see, even that podcaster, is saying that this is all like this past results were a mirage." So this, I feel like this should be a reminder to the fans that we may not be, and I think I've said it before on the show, just because we win, we're not the best team in the world, but just because we lose, we're not the worst team in the world. That's not, believe me, guys, I have to remind myself that at times as well. So just because we won 5-2, we're not like, oh, like give us the championship right now. No, no. But it is a reminder that at least RGV is moving in the right direction as we near the end of the USL Championship season here in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Edson, I mean, as balanced as this Western Conference is, I mean, you look at Colorado, they took like a couple of beatings from San Diego, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Both home and away. I mean, you can easily say, like, oh, San Diego looks like a dangerous team because they went into Colorado and thrashed them at their place. And then it was like they just finished the job in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just how balanced the Western Conference is.
So
Okay.
that's
And
actually a pretty good
for
segue to Keman or Kemako, but I'll let you finish.
and then you take a look at RGVFC. Well, we go in there. We had El Paso on the ropes. We give up a a goal to Josue Gomez in the dying minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But then the return leg, it's like the, the what became a sparring match of 35 minutes, and then We end up beating them 5-2,
Hmm.
and you kind of saw that El Paso team like in the midst of a six 6 to 7 game rut that they're in. So it's just like, okay, like even with this result, I mean, we're still outside that playoff picture, separated by like 4 points,
Hmm.
and it's just like something has to really give here in the Western Conference.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue to quema o no quema. We've got a couple of quotes that were made at the post game press conference. Now, I can't identify who asked this question. Maybe Ray, you remember when they asked if the fact that the team, despite getting 3 points against El Paso Locomotive, was still not in a playoff position, and if that was disheartening for the squad.
Yeah, that was Edward Severn of the Monitor. A
Okay.
special shout for him for using my material. Special shout. Um, you know what? I kind of have to disagree because there's still plenty of soccer to be played. I mean, they still haven't played San Antonio FC. We still haven't played Sacramento either.
We haven't played Louisville.
Haven't played Louisville. And
Yeah.
then and then the upcoming game against Las Vegas, that it just kind of feels like opening night deja vu all over again, where uh we tied 1-1, but that was like at the very beginning of the season. Since then, the teams have taken like opposing contrasts.
Hmm.
While they may be sitting dead last, look at the way they play at home. I mean, they're gonna fight you, and I mean, fight you. It's kind of like going into a street fight against Las Vegas,
Hmm. And we'll
and
talk. Yeah, go ahead.
and it's gonna be one of those matches where if the Toros come out victorious, I think it's just going to be like one of those business like performances. We're not going to go out and score 5, 6 goals on them. But if we do beat them, we're gonna beat this team professionally because of the way Las Vegas plays. They're a team that kind of needs to get 3 points in order to like catch a second wind.
Hmm. So when we'll talk about right real quick right now. We'll later on we'll talk about the upcoming match against Las Vegas Lights. The reason I bring up this quote is because I wanted to get your thoughts on what Wilmer said. So when he asked that question about whether it was disheartening that despite the win they're still not in playoff position. He says, I think there's a lot of games in front of us. It shows that the Western Conference is very even. All the teams. Today we beat El Paso, but tomorrow El Paso is going to beat someone else, and we cannot relax. The fact that it's 3 points between 5, 6 teams shows that it shows that you need to be focused. You need to be pushing. You need to continue giving everything every minute of every game. We cannot be comfortable. And even if we've made eighth place today, it's going to be another final because if you don't win, you go out. This is the right place, the right path for us. We need to win at home and we need to try to find points away because that's the only possibility for us to make it into the playoffs. Quema or no quema ka.
I say it completely burns. It quemas, because I do agree with Wilmer. I mean, and I was just saying right now, we still haven't seen Sacramento or San Antonio, who are like direct rivals for playoff spots. They're in as of today, but maybe if fortunes turn against them a little bit, I mean, they can see themselves from they can see themselves right now as hosting to not hosting, and
And not
that's
only
kind of like a little bit of the and that's kind of the difference right now is between a lot of these Western Conference playoff teams.
and not only that, I do feel like if RGV gets a solid you know a victory or a hard fought draw, especially on the road, uh, which they did against Sacramento, but against San Antonio, like if they get a hard fought draw and maybe even get a win here at home, that is going to be a couple of statement results that, despite them being lower on the Western Conference table, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with if the top teams do match up against them in the playoffs. So it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks as we near the end of the USL Championship season. But like I said, there's still a lot of games to be played. I really do think. And I really do think. Sorry, the screen just froze for a minute there. But I really do think that RGV has what it takes to get some decent results. But I think first we need to focus a step at a time, because we really cannot. You know, we're not in a position to not think about Las Vegas Lights at this moment, and getting some valuable 3 points at Cashman Field, which has been done, so it's not really impossible. Um, the last Kema no Kemaka, Ray, I don't know if you're there. It seems like you might be. Uh, oh, you're there. Okay, good. It sounded really,
I'm
really
here.
quiet. Hey, it sounded really, really quiet. But anyway, the last quote that I
Do do
wanted
do
to
do 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 do.
do, 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 do. Anyway, the last quote that I wanted to touch up upon, you guys, and go ahead and put in the chat, everybody, if you guys agree or disagree with Wilmer's quote, or if you guys disagree with the following quote from Wilmer, or Digo, from Gringo Torres on his evaluation of the team in the match. He says, "It was a weird game. We were playing back and forth, and we were making mistakes, and they were making mistakes. We had to find that balance, and when we found it, we started moving the ball quick and getting off of our feet. We were moving the ball better, and we defended a little bit better. Juan David knew he had to sit back and stay tight to the back line, and when he did that, I think we started defending very well. We found that balance, and obviously El Paso is a great team. They move the ball very well, but we found a lot of spaces behind them because they started getting frustrated."
Gamma, I'm definitely agree with Gringo. And I could not record that part of the presser because F in the chat, my equipment decided to like have a little lapse.
Mm-hmm.
I went from like hearing everything that Wilmer said, and then Gringo gets on the stage, and it's like, okay, why am I not hearing Gringo? I mean, I know I have tested everything out, and uh, yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with him. I mean, it was a weird game. It really was. I mean, from the first minute penalty given to the team finding a response, no more than 5 minutes later, and I'll give you a Kema no Kema call right here. In
All
the
right.
past, Jerson has always said that the first 5 minutes after you score or you give up a goal, the response is most important. Kema or no
Mm-hmm.
Kema.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because and they meant and I keep coming back to that, to the Seriously Local podcast, because they mentioned it. They said that it was frustrating as that for them as El Paso fans, that despite being early, like in the third minute with the lead, and then obviously with the 2-1 win, they lost. RGV was able to regain that momentum from El Paso because they scored the equalizers so quickly after they got scored on. So like I think both of them, it was around 4 minutes. So yeah, I completely agree completely came out with Jerson's comments back in the day of saying that the first 5 minutes after getting scored on is very crucial as to how the momentum is going to sway in favor or against you. Because if you get scored on, and then all of a sudden you lose possession of the ball, you lose control of the play, you start getting desperate, obviously the other team is going to be able to gain more momentum in their favor. We saw it against Tosa when Galindra scored. The momentum shifted forward to RGV, and I really thought that we would get the equalizer, despite being down a man. Why? Because Tulsa in the first 5 minutes were unable to get get the momentum back quickly. Eventually, they were able to get the momentum back, like especially after the red card to Coronado. But there's that whole thing of immediately after getting scored on, how do you react? It's going to be very, very, very important. Just real quick before we give our predictions of this upcoming game against Las Vegas Lights, I want to show you all a couple of stats from this game against El Paso Locomotive from our top three. So we've got Wilmer Jr., Juan Galindres, and Cristiano Francois. Wilmer Jr. played 81 minutes, 7 out of 11 duels won, 0 assists, one out of 3 shots on target. Obviously, the goal that he scored in the second half. Juan Galindres played 66 minutes, 1 out of 4 duels won, 2 assists, one out of 1 shots on target, 0 goals. The 2 assists being key here, and how he is very, very effective in generating some chances, because I think in total, I think he created 3 chances, if I'm not mistaken. That's what the USL Championship said. So he had a good performance so far. Cristiano Francois, though, I've beaten the dead horse in previous weeks. What's Cristiano doing? Like, he's so underwhelming. Well, I was pleasantly surprised that in this game, I don't know if it was because the fact that he was playing against his former team or what was going on, but he really had a good game so far, or at least much better than what he had previously shown before. Played 66 minutes, 5 out of 9 duels won, 0 assists, but 3 out of 3 shots on target. Unfortunately, 0 goals. Wasn't able to reflect that. But I think that what Cristiano Francois generated this past Saturday, um, I hope he's able to continue that in these upcoming matches.
I'm going to supplement a little bit on what you just said about Cristiano Francois, and if my memory serves me correct, I was able to talk to Cristiano Francois sometime back, and I had I had asked him about, like, hey man, just how do you just like physically feel right now, this late into the season, and he goes, look, even though my numbers aren't reflecting it, I feel like I'm in the best shape of my career right now because I've obviously found my footing here with this club. My numbers don't show it, but I just feel like I may be one or the other away from me just bursting out and having the complete game that I'm supposed to have. And I think the only thing that just concerns me, as you were just saying right now, like, Cristiano, what are you doing, and all this stuff. Okay, he was able to create 3 big chances. Okay, all of them were missed. But think about that, Edson. Prior to this game, we didn't have a lot of big chances created. Think about that. Put that in a think cloud for a second.
Mhm.
Now we come back to this. We have this game against El Paso. All of a sudden, we start getting a lot of big chances created now. And you were harping about the offensive uh, target shooting being so much better. And I kind of feel like this is part of the reason why Francois has been very good despite the numbers not backing him. And I just feel like it's just a matter of time before he either gets the key pass or the key shot to really uh complement what he's been going through in this stage of the season with the team.
Mhm. So, but yeah, I really do hope that this is a sign that Cristiano Francois gets finally got his footing and not another flash in the pan. Because what was the other game that we were like, oh, this is finally like Cristiano Francois has woken up, like when he scored the goal. I don't remember exactly when who he scored the goal against, and ended up in the next couple of matches it was just more of the same. The same old
Uh,
Cristiano
and and
Francois.
and and Edson, I mean, let's also keep this in a think cloud. Okay, fine, Cristiano's not scoring, not assisting. Fine, if the guy has the speed to kill off and have deep runs in the offensive end, hey, that's fine. That's fine because remember, Edson, yes, we would be forward, but it hardly generated like a shot on target or anything. Now you look at Francois and everything that he's done. I mean, you can call me a Francois cheerleader if you like. I mean, it's totally valid. I mean, but it's been a while since RGVFC has had someone like him before. I mean, that has truly had a player with barn burning speed like him. I mean, the last guy we had similar to him was Chuy Enriquez. Chuy Enriquez was one of those guys. If he would beat you on the first dribble, watch out. I mean, the guy was off to the races.
Yeah. God, I miss
And I
Chewy.
think, yeah, and it's just something that, for me, it's like, okay, like, I mean, we haven't had something similar to that, Edson. So, I, I mean, I'm not saying that he deserves the full benefit of the doubt, but I mean, hey, I mean, if the guy's been fully fit for a long time now, I mean, hey, I mean, I think it's just a matter of time. I truly do.
So Abraham Moreno says it's not a complete 180 for Francois, but he's starting to steer in the positive direction. And then Mike says that's what me and AB talked about. He gets the defense tired. When did Cristiano Francois become Henry Martin?
Oh,
El cansador de defensas.
oh,
If
wow,
y'all don't get the reference, um, after the
wow,
Gold Cup final where Santiago Jimenez of Mexico came into the match and scored the game winning goal against Panama,
wow.
they
We
asked.
really going there? We really going there?
I'm just saying, if they're saying, oh well, he gets the defense
Ay,
tired. Well,
no, Dios
sounds
mío.
sounds like it sounds like what they said about Henry Martin. Oh, it's it was key that I think I don't remember, it was they asked Henry Martin and Henry Martin himself mentioned it, or it was just the pundits at to the end that mentioned it, but they mentioned like, oh, the key was that Henry Martin, despite him not scoring or assisting, he tired the defense out, which made it easy for Santiago Jimenez to come in and play the game and do the play that he did. So I'm not saying it in a negative light. I'm just stating that there's a similarity. There's a similarity in the claims between Cristiano Francois and Henry Martin.
Ah,
Abraham says my dad laughed at that. See, I can be funny sometimes. Um, anyway, real
but a
quick.
boom.
Ta-dum, man, I'm gonna add that sound effect in post for the podcast. Anyway, if I have time, so I can't, I will not. I will not fully commit to that, unfortunately. But anyway, real quick before we leave, predictions. We're going up this Saturday to um, Cashman Field in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're going up against Las Vegas Lights, who have been doing terrible under Chelice's son, Isidro Sanchez. We're really expecting something different. Was Las Vegas really expecting something different, with Chelice's son? I just don't get it. But anyway, home record for Las Vegas 0-6-3. However, a lot of people I know you just mentioned a little while ago, Ray, and I know USL Tactics, John Morris of USL Tactics has mentioned it as well. Despite the negative results, it really does seem like Las Vegas is a tougher opponent than what the score lines and the record shows to them. So having said this, they're coming off of a losing against Sacramento Republic 2-1 at Cashman Field, 2-0 loss again at home against Hartford Athletic, and a 3-3 draw at home against Birmingham Legion, with a Wednesday away match in between them against Oakland Roots, where they lost 1-0 at Oakland. But Ray, give us your prediction for this match as well as the chat.
Chat's giving a lot of 3-1s. Let me just remind the chat, you know, this is a Las Vegas Lights squad that has lost El Cubo Torres to a Costa Rican team. Okay, so there goes part of that offensive power. And yes, how do we still leave that guy unmarked 1 year later? I say the Toros go out and give a business like performance and go out there with a 2-0 win.
2-0. Hmm. I think the biggest issue for me is the field, how narrow it is. We've seen that RGB really isn't at 100%. What we're used to at Isotopes Field against New Mexico, even against El Paso Locomotive at Southwest University Park. Obviously, with the reduced dimensions, it really is a lot tougher for Wilmer style to be implemented correctly at its 100%. I still think that RGV will get the victory. But I do think it might be even a 1-0 victory over Las Vegas Lights. But Ray, bold prediction.
Oh, bold prediction. Okay. You want a bold prediction? I say we're gonna bench Galindres. We're gonna go with a front three of Pinzon, Francois, Ruiz, and Wilmer Jr. on top. That's a bold prediction lineup I'm making right there.
Hmm.
I see Nodarse coming back from suspension into a spot. Uh, I say Benitez is the sacrifice guy.
Hmm.
Uh, I kind of see Juan David Cabeza sitting this one out because of the conditions of the field, and we bring back in Coronado. I mean, you want to take care of your best players for this one because of how the conditions of the field are.
Hmm.
So, bold prediction: we we do a hospital job on them, and it's gonna be a 3-0 win. It's just gonna be one of those like slight hospital jobs.
Okay. Mike says, bold prediction 6-0 goal Olímpico by Wilmer. Okay. That is bold. By both the one of the goals being scored, how it's going to be, and obviously the score line. I think for me, I think my bold prediction is actually going to go on the negative side. I maybe somehow lost. Like to me, it feels like one of those games where anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and somehow Las Vegas is going to get a victory at Cashman Field, despite the terrible score lines that they come with this in this season. It's going to be it's going to be one of those games, typical FIFA style. RGV dominates. RGV has a lot of chances on goal. They all get blocked, or somehow they get saved by the goalkeeper. And Las Vegas has one opportunity that they put into the back of the net, and 1-0 loss is my bold prediction in that fashion by RGV against Las Vegas Lights. Abraham says his bold prediction: hat trick, Andy, 0-4 final score.
Well, I mean, pretty good. I mean, why not? Stranger things have happened against Las Vegas Lights. I mean, for example, we weren't supposed to go out there and beat them 5-0, and Felberg and Pinzon decided to put on the superhero capes that evening,
Yeah. Hmm.
and Eric Winalda decided to play a Twitter chat with me, and maybe it's like another little brother get slapped around, talk again.
Here's hoping. Here's hoping that we get another. Here's hoping we get another good showing of Wilmer ball, like we have this past weekend. But guys, that is going to be it for this show. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I think we were actually complete. I was looking at the viewer count, all episode long, and we were consistently 10, 9, 8 viewers on the show. So I want to thank you all for the support, despite being away for a while and being very inconsistent with our uploads, with our live streams. I want to thank you all for being patient. Thank you all for your support. And of course, I wanted to let you all know, like I said, always, support the other guys as well. Support Ray with South Texas Border Sports. Support, Costas Tight End, Shadow Wolf as well with his El Gringo Let's Talk RGV podcast. Like I've mentioned before, any kind of Toros coverage, the more Toros coverage there is, the better it is for the fan base, the better it is for the team. And like I said, I really appreciate all the support that you guys have given to us, the OGs. Because at the end of the day, one day I may decide, what, my time is done with Down in the Valley and being a Toros podcaster slash YouTube. I don't know you want to call me content creator, I guess a little bit more general. And there's going to be other people that are going to be, picking up the baton. It happened to me, with the Dynamo, thankfully, when I decided to quit doing Dynamo podcasting with the Peel, with Generation Orange, or wherever you want to call it, there were a lot of other different people like 442, like Clutch City Soccer, like the Houston Dynapod, and a lot of other Dynamo podcasts that picked up the baton, and now they're at the forefront of Dynamo coverage and Dynamo content creation. That it used to be, it was just the Peel podcast and maybe some other podcasts as well, but now they've got a lot of choose, and hopefully one day, my dream is that if the Toros can do continue to be here in the Rio Grande Valley, that one day we will have, just like the Dynamo has now, a whole lot of content creators that available for the fan base to learn more about this team and continue to grow this Toros fan base community even more than we're currently at in this year 2023. Ray, I want to thank you for coming on at the last minute on the show. Like I said, your inputs on this team are always welcome, and I think they're pretty much needed. Like I said, go ahead and support him at South Texas Border Sports on his YouTube channel. And Ray, where else can they find you at?
You can find me either Twitter or X at South Texas Border Sports, Instagram South Texas Border Sports, Threads also, where I post a couple of things of about the Toros in Spanish here and there. I also cover RGV FC Toros, RGV Vipers. Those guys are coming around the corner. UTRGV with their women's season, they just opened up practice today for NCAA season. Just my bread and butter is Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Threads, and even sometimes on Facebook. You might find my material there, guys. I appreciate the support that you guys give me. Subscriptions, not subscriptions. I mean, hey, it's all there for you guys because you guys deserve uh, transparency from my end. Uh, and I try to be as full frontal as I can with with my opinions about the team and whatnot. I mean, whether we bond or don't bond. I mean, look, I mean that's my job. I try to provide as much content as I can from all three branches, and it's just something that I try to do the best with.
And not only that, guys, just real quick, a huge favor that I want to ask y'all. Um, be sure to like his videos, his uploads of the post game press conferences, comment on them. It helps him out with the algorithm. I know in this current in current times, it's very like pleasing the algorithm is key. So give his videos a like, comment on them. All of that makes his videos, his content, a lot more appealing for the YouTube algorithm to help share his stuff around. The more people find out about toros, and I know, I think that's, and I say it because in this past year that has been key for a lot more subscribers to find the down in the valley channel, appeasing the algorithm, creating, content that the people are going to put like comments and all of that. So please help him out in that aspect. Help the algorithm, help him, spread his content around, so that way more people can see, especially the post game and pre game press conference videos as well. You can also follow me at Down in the RGV, my personal account, Ochoa _8 on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads as well. I know I've been kind of, like I said, off and on, and talking a lot about NASCAR too as well, but I promise that I'm gonna try my best to be more consistent again when it comes with the Down in the Valley podcast live streams. And as always, I wish you all the best. Y'all take care. And I know it's going to be 3 weeks until our next home game, but let's continue to support our toros. And if I do create a Twitter space on game day on Saturday, I hope that you all can join us. So follow me at Eochoa_8. I will be posting the Twitter space there. Come in, we can interact while the game is happening and give our unfiltered thoughts, right as the game is happening, on what's going on with this team. And hopefully it'll be a positive result that we will be seeing while we're on Twitter Spaces. But guys, thank you so much for your support. We will see each other next week in another episode of the Down in the Valley podcast. Have a good night.